Good afternoon, everyone. Sometimes when organisations make reports, they're very much projects for the experts or for the elite or for the academics. They can be kind of full of good ideas, but maybe they don't lead to so much action or they don't have so much connection with the people on the ground. So when we set out 2 years ago to start this project, we were really keen that that didn't happen with this inquiry. We wanted this to be different, and so that's why we brought together such a diverse pool of commissioners of different experiences and backgrounds. That's why we rooted our process in listening to people's testimonies and lived experience. And that's why we presented a series of recommendations, which are very much practical proposals and ideas for action. And these ideas and proposals are for all of us. They are things for the bishop, for your parish priest, for parish groups, and for all of us as individuals. We all have a part to play in taking these things forward. They are quite challenging, but I think it's worth remembering the challenge that Pope Francis has set us when he asks us to become a church of the poor. That's really about, in his words, getting involved by word and deed in people's lives, bridging distances, being willing to abase ourselves if necessary, and embracing human life, touching the suffering and flesh of Christ in others. So what we're calling for is really deep listening to understand the challenges people face and a courageous commitment to action, which may lead to some uncomfortable associations and challenges, but is certainly worth doing. So our recommendations are in 4 parts, and I'm going to very briefly introduce them, but you can read them in full and in detail in the report itself. So could we have the first slide up, please? So our first set of recommendations are really to do with raising awareness and inspiring Catholics. We are committed to maintaining a criminal justice forum at Caritas Leeds to take responsibility for keeping this stuff going and making sure that these recommendations are taken forward. But there are a range of other ideas in there, including making the most of Prisoners' Sunday and Prison Week, which we've just had, as an annual focus for prayer and liturgy and action. Bringing together prison chaplains, prison visitors, and community chaplaincies for shared learning through meetings and potentially a conference. And also creating additional opportunities for people with lived experience to share their testimonies with parishes and with Catholic groups. So these are all ways in which we can work together to inspire more of the Catholic community. Next slide, please. The second set of recommendations are all to do with encouraging local actions in parishes and deaneries. So it's all very well that we've got this report and these great ideas. It's only going to mean something if in individual parishes and local areas, people are willing to take action. One of the ideas we think is worth considering are for parishes or deaneries to potentially adopt a public agency or a third sector organisation that's working in the field of criminal justice. And that way you could create a meaningful and ongoing local partnership with that organisation that might look at all sorts of different ways that people in your neighbourhood can work with them over the long term. As has already been mentioned, we recommend churches use their meeting spaces and offer them to charities and peer support groups who are helping people potentially coming out of prison or facing challenges such as mental health and addiction. And also we can use our relationships with employers and our status as employers ourselves to create additional volunteering and employment opportunities for people with criminal convictions. There are a range of organisations, including Tempus Novo and Giving Time, who are already doing great work to advise and support organisations and connect them with people with criminal convictions. And we're calling on the church as an employer to take this seriously and introduce this, but also for individual Catholics who are leaders in businesses or who work in human resources in secular organisations to show leadership within your own organisations and try and help them to take a step forward to do this. Next slide, please. The third set of recommendations are really to do with equipping us with skills and confidence to be able to act as champions of justice and mercy in the public square. We've noticed that there's a real need for additional training and capacity building activities, both for clergy and lay people who have a passion for this area or have found out about this inquiry and want to do something positive. And there are a range of different areas where we could do with some additional training and support. One is in restorative justice, understanding that system and making sure that everybody who is in a position of leadership or is a volunteer within a parish knows exactly how to signpost and support people to access restorative justice. I mentioned addiction and mental health before. There's a great need for training within our parishes for more people who have the right knowledge, awareness, sensitivity to support people with those challenges. And finally, there's a need for additional training, particularly for lay leaders in campaigning, media engagement and community organising, so that as Catholics we can play a more active role in the political process, in lobbying, in scrutiny, in participating in all the local ways in which we can influence the criminal justice system and champion a Christian approach which promotes mercy and justice. And we feel that if these things are done, we can actually create a much more inclusive church that is better capable to support ex-offenders, victims of crime, and their family to participate in the full life of the church. Next slide, please. And finally, we recommend that all of us take some responsibility for supporting reforms to the criminal justice system itself. And Bishop Marcus has mentioned already the ways in which plenty of ideas and reforms have been outlined by the Catholic Bishops' Conference over the years and stated in many reports. We believe that there needs to be a campaign strategy within our diocese where we can build local support for a number of different changes which are required based on the interviews and the testimonies that we heard over the last 2 years. They include raising care for prisoners, victims and ex-offenders as a political priority, improving the quality of and access to mental health services, creating parity of healthcare between prison and the community, and ensuring that all people who move between community and prison get continuity of care as they move. Increased funding for prisons themselves, but also probation services, rehabilitation services and restorative justice services, and a reduction in the use of short custodial sentences. And finally, there's a particular ongoing campaign around making sure that people who have left prison have a fair chance in the job market. And that's a simple action to do with changing application forms, and it's called Ban the Box. The idea is that we make sure that we give people the best possible opportunity to access work opportunities, and that they're not written out of the process or put off by unnecessary questioning or criminal conviction boxes and early stage of application. Again, we can adopt that campaign as an employer in the Catholic Church, but also Catholics who are leaders in their own organisations, who work in human resources, can show leadership in their own with their own employer by promoting that change too. So in those areas, you can see there's plenty of things for all of us to do. It's not just for the hierarchy of the church, it's for all individuals and parishes to get involved. And hopefully if you read the report and you get into the detail of those asks, you'll have enough there to inspire you or your parish to do something tangible to make a difference. I'm going to hand over to Joe now for the next section.